If you don't control what happens inside you, everything outside of you will control your life. Most people never become mentally strong because they never learn to train their mind, only their reactions, and that is why they stay stuck. You know this feeling. You've had days when a single message ruined your mood. A small problem drained your energy. A minor setback derailed the entire day. Not because you're weak, but because the world kept pulling your attention, your emotions, and your focus before you even had a chance to claim them. Most people live this way for years without realizing that their mind is being shaped by everything except themselves. Mental strength isn't a gift. It's a skill, a trainable one. And when you finally train it, your life begins to change from the inside out. Not instantly, not magically, but powerfully. Because you start choosing your responses instead of handing that power to chaos, noise, or fear. This audiobook exists for one purpose: to help you become the kind of person who cannot be shaken by pressure, by setbacks, or by the expectations of others. This is not motivation. This is mental conditioning. You're not here to be entertained. You're here to be sharpened. You're here because something inside you knows you're capable of far more than the life you've been tolerating. You want to stop getting distracted so easily. You want to stop losing control of your emotions. You want to stop starting strong and falling apart halfway through. Deep down, you want that stability, calm, clarity, strength that doesn't break when life gets loud. Mental strength is built, not found. Most people wait for inspiration. Mentally strong people build discipline. Most people wait for the right moment. Mentally strong people create it. And that will be the shift you experience today. Over the next 90 minutes, you'll learn how to train your mind the same way elite athletes train their bodies, through structure, repetition, and small, non-negotiable habits that compound into unshakable inner power. The journey starts with your mornings. If you lose the first hour, you lose the whole day. In Chapter 1, you'll learn how mentally strong people win their mornings by taking control of their focus before the world has a chance to pull them apart. No more letting your phone dictate your mood. No more starting your day in reaction mode. You will rebuild the way you begin your day, and everything else will follow. Then we move into focus. Your mind is your most valuable asset, yet it leaks energy through notifications, noise, comparison, and distractions that don't deserve your attention. In Chapter 2, you'll learn why focus isn't something you find, it's something you protect. When you guard your mental space, your entire life becomes sharper, clearer, and more powerful. Next, we'll train your tolerance for discomfort. Growth never happens in convenience. Most people avoid the hard thing and wonder why nothing changes. Chapter 3 shows you how mentally strong people use discomfort as a gym. Cold moments, tough conversations, difficult tasks, early mornings, and why this muscle alone can transform your entire identity. After that comes integrity. You can't build mental strength on broken promises to yourself. In Chapter 4, you'll learn how your identity is shaped every time you keep or break your word. This is where mental strength becomes self-respect, because when your actions match your words, your mind becomes stable and unshakable. Then we address finishing. Starting is easy. Finishing is rare. In Chapter 5, you'll learn the psychology of follow-through and how mentally strong people complete what they start, even on the days they don't want to. This single skill separates dreamers from achievers. From there, we rebuild the way you handle failure. Most people break when things fall apart because they've never learned to reset quickly. In Chapter 6, you'll develop the ability to extract the lesson, release the emotion, and move forward with clarity instead of shame. Then comes calm under pressure. In Chapter 7, you'll learn why calm is not softness. It's control. It's power. It's the ability to think clearly when others panic, make decisions from strength instead of fear, and lead yourself with stability instead of chaos. In Chapter 8, we'll rewire your habits. No one becomes mentally strong with weak standards. You'll learn how to replace unhelpful patterns with identity-anchored behaviors that strengthen your discipline and remove excuses. Then we'll train private discipline. In Chapter 9, you'll learn why mentally strong people win in private long before they win in public. They do the work when no one is watching. They build confidence through consistency. Finally, we end with the fundamentals. In Chapter 10, you'll discover why mastery is repetition, not intensity. Why doing the simple things daily creates a life most people only talk about, and why mental strength is not a peak, it's a practice. You don't rise by accident, you rise by training, and today, your training begins. Let's start. Chapter 1. Win your morning. If you lose your morning, you lose the strongest version of yourself, and when the strongest version of you is gone, the day owns you instead of you owning the day. Most people don't realize how quietly their mornings shape their identity. They wake up, grab their phone, absorb other people's noise, and step into the day already mentally scattered. It feels small, almost harmless, like nothing is really happening. But it is happening. Your mind is being pulled before you even get a chance to claim it. You begin the day reacting, and without knowing it, the rest of the day becomes a chain of reactions you never fully recover from. Morning chaos becomes life chaos. Some part of you has lived this pattern. You've woken up overwhelmed. You've opened your phone before opening your eyes fully. You've let messages decide your emotions. You've let notifications decide your energy. You've let the world's urgency override your own clarity. And even if you pushed through the day, something always felt off. Rushed, unfocused, unsettled. Not because you were weak, but because you didn't begin from strength. Here's the truth. Your first hour is the root of your mental strength. Your brain is most open, most vulnerable, and most impressionable when you first wake up. The first thing you give it becomes the lens through which you see everything that follows. Feed it chaos, and chaos sticks. Feed it clarity, and clarity grows. The morning is not just a routine. It is a psychological reset, a foundation, a moment where you choose your state rather than inherit it from the world around you. Win your first hour, and you win your day. That is the principle mentally strong people live by. They don't negotiate it. They don't try. They don't leave it to chance. They lock in their mornings because they understand something most people never learn. The mind is strongest when it is trained at the beginning, not rescued later when everything is already falling apart. Visualize 2 mornings. In the first, you wake up and scroll. Your heart rate spikes. Your mind fills with noise. Your thoughts scatter. You haven't even stood up, yet your energy is already drained. You're running, but not toward anything, only away from the pressure you accidentally invited. This is the morning most people know too well. Now imagine the second morning. You wake up. You sit for a moment before touching anything. You breathe. You feel your chest rise and fall. Everything is quiet. You're not pulled. You're choosing. You're not consuming. You're leading. In that stillness, even if only for a few seconds, you reclaim authority over your mind. You start the day with yourself instead of with the world. And that single shift rewrites everything. Your morning is your first act of self-respect. Because before you conquer challenges, before you deal with responsibilities, before you face other people's expectations, you choose yourself, not the noise, not the world, you. And that choice is where mental strength grows. The real transformation begins when your first action of the day is intentional. When you choose silence over scrolling, breathing over panic, clarity over reaction. When your first decision is made from strength rather than weakness. You don't have to meditate for an hour. You don't need a perfect routine. You simply need ownership. Start with your phone. The first battle of the day is not emotional. It's neurological. The moment you reach for your phone, your brain is flooded with stimulation far before it's ready. You aren't just checking messages. You're handing over your ability to think sharply. When mentally strong people avoid their phone for the first 60 minutes, it's not discipline for the sake of discipline. It's strategic protection of their focus. Then comes your anchor. You need one sentence. Short, strong, intentional. A command from you to yourself. Something like, I lead my mind today. I move with purpose. I don't break just because the day gets hard. Say it out loud. Let it set your emotional tone. Your anchor statement becomes a shield when the day tries to shake you. Now set your intentions. 3 of them. Not tasks, not chores. Intentions. What matters most today? What strengthens me today? What will I not allow today? These questions force your mind toward clarity. A strong mind doesn't wander, it directs, and intentions act like mental guardrails, keeping you centered even when pressure grows. Then, before doing anything significant, breathe. A slow, deliberate breath brings the mind back into the body. It resets your nervous system. It reminds you that you're not supposed to sprint into the day. You're supposed to enter it with presence. Just 10 seconds of breathing changes the next 10 hours of thinking. Finally, choose one small victory. A simple win signals competence to your brain. Make your bed. Stretch. Drink water. Stand tall. Read a page. Something small but completed. Small wins compound into confidence. Confidence compounds into identity, and identity determines your strength. Small wins early create mentally strong people later. You've experienced days where everything felt heavy. You've experienced mornings where you barely had the strength to begin. You've experienced the quiet frustration of knowing you could be more focused, more disciplined, more grounded, but not knowing how to pull yourself into that version of you. This is how. Not by trying harder, not by forcing motivation, but by building a morning that supports the person you want to become. Your morning is the bridge between who you were yesterday and who you are choosing to be today. If you build it with intention, the day bows to you. If you build it with distraction, the day breaks you. So ask yourself, what have you been allowing to control your first hour? And what would happen if, starting tomorrow, you reclaimed it? Because mental strength is not built in noise. It's built in the quiet moments where you choose yourself first. It's built when the day begins with clarity instead of chaos. It's built when your mind follows your leadership instead of reacting to the world. Win your morning. Win your mind. Chapter 2. Protect your focus. If you don't protect your focus, everything in the world will steal it. And once your focus is gone, your strength follows. Most people underestimate how fragile their attention is. They think losing focus is a personal flaw, a lack of willpower, or a motivation problem. But the truth is much simpler. The world is built to distract you. Every notification, every app, every ping, every platform is designed to break your concentration and pull your mind away from what actually matters. You're not losing focus because you're weak. You're losing focus because your environment has been trained to control you before you ever learn to control it. A distracted mind cannot produce a powerful life. You've felt this before. You start the day with good intentions, maybe even a plan. Then a notification pops up. You check it just for a second. That second becomes a minute. Then 5, then 10. Before you know it, the mental sharpness you had at the beginning of the day is gone, replaced with a low-grade fog that keeps you scattered and restless. You spend the rest of the day trying to regain momentum that would have stayed intact if your focus had been protected. The damage isn't just the time you lose, it's the mental cost. Every distraction forces your brain to restart, to rebuild clarity from zero. That restart takes more energy than people realize. That's why you feel exhausted even when you haven't done anything hard. Your mind is not tired from effort. It's tired from fragmentation. Distraction is the silent killer of potential. And the most dangerous part? It feels normal. Being constantly fragmented has become the default mental state for millions of people. They don't even recognize how much clarity they've lost, how much focus they used to have, how deeply they could think before everything became noise. You can't become mentally strong until you reclaim the ability to focus with intention, depth, and consistency. Principle. Focus is not something you find. Focus is something you guard. Mentally strong people don't hope for focus. They build environments that protect it. They create habits that reinforce it. They remove everything that threatens it. They understand that attention is a form of currency. Where your attention goes, your life follows. You cannot master your mind while giving your attention away freely to anything that asks for it. Picture a room with 10 open doors. Anyone can walk in. Anyone can interrupt you. Anyone can distract you. That is your mind without boundaries. That is the mind of someone who wakes up and checks their phone immediately. That is the mind of someone who lets emails, messages, gossip, comparison, and stimulation walk in uninvited. Now imagine the same room with only one door, and you hold the key. That is a protected mind. That is a trained mind. That is the mind of someone who chooses what they allow in and what they keep out. Your focus is your gatekeeper. Train it well. Let's make this real. The first step in protecting your focus is removing the unnecessary noise. The human mind is not designed to handle constant stimulation. Every notification, every alert, every buzz is a demand for your attention, and your attention is finite. When you spend it on the unimportant, you lose it for the things that matter. Mentally strong people turn off notifications not as a productivity hack, but as an identity statement. My mind belongs to me, not to my phone. Next, create intentional focus blocks. Undistracted, uninterrupted time is rare today and powerful. Choose a block of 60 or 90 minutes where nothing enters your space. No messages, no browsing, no split attention. You give your mind permission to go deep instead of staying shallow. Deep focus strengthens the mind the same way heavy lifting strengthens muscle. You become sharper, more decisive, and more resilient. Then, clean your environment. Your surroundings shape your behavior far more than your motivation does. A messy desk creates mental clutter. A crowded digital workspace creates mental friction. When your space is chaotic, your mind becomes chaotic too. Mentally strong people simplify their environment so their mind can be free to focus on what matters. Less clutter equals more clarity. Now, choose your priorities with intention. Every day, identify 3 things that actually matter, 3 actions that move you closer to the life you want. Everything else is noise. When you protect your time for these 3 priorities, you train your mind to differentiate between what is essential and what is irrelevant. That distinction is one of the core traits of mental strength. Focus is a decision you make again and again throughout the day. And it is a decision most people don't make consciously. They let autopilot run the show. They let random impulses drive them. They let the world decide where their attention goes. But mentally strong people break that pattern. They choose to be present. They choose to be intentional. They choose to be unavailable to anything that weakens them. If you want to protect your focus, you have to be honest with yourself. What distracts you the most? What steals your energy? What do you keep allowing back into your mind because it's comfortable, even though it's destroying your clarity? You cannot protect your focus while protecting your distractions. You cannot build mental strength while feeding mental noise. You cannot create a powerful mind in an environment designed to weaken it. Your mind reflects what you repeatedly allow into it. So take a moment and picture the version of yourself who is mentally unshakable. What does their environment look like? What do they ignore? What do they refuse to engage in? What do they prioritize? What do they eliminate without hesitation? That version of you is not a fantasy. That version of you is the product of disciplined focus. And disciplined focus is the product of eliminating distraction and strengthening your attention muscle one decision at a time. Ask yourself, what is pulling me away from the life I say I want, and why am I still letting it in? Because once you protect your focus, everything changes. Your thoughts sharpen, your emotions stabilize, your confidence grows, your productivity becomes meaningful instead of frantic. You begin to feel grounded instead of scattered, powerful instead of drained, in control instead of overwhelmed. Your focus is your life's steering wheel. If you don't hold it firmly, someone else will. Protect your focus. Protect your strength. Chapter 3. Build discomfort, tolerance. Everything you want for your life sits on the other side of discomfort, and most people never reach it because they run from the very thing that would make them strong. Pain is not what breaks people. Avoiding pain is what breaks people. Every time you choose comfort over growth, your mind becomes a little weaker, your resilience becomes a little thinner, and your confidence becomes a little more fragile. Avoiding discomfort teaches your brain the wrong lesson. The lesson that difficulty is dangerous, that challenge is a threat, that pressure should be escaped instead of embraced. And once that belief forms, it quietly limits your entire life. Comfort creates weakness. Discomfort creates greatness. You've felt the consequences of avoiding discomfort before. You've avoided difficult conversations until the problem exploded. You've postponed challenges until they became heavier. You've escaped responsibilities because they felt intimidating. Maybe you pushed aside your dreams because they required more effort than you felt ready for. And every time you avoided discomfort, you didn't just delay growth, you trained your mind to retreat. A retreating mind will never lead a powerful life. There is a moment you must face honestly. Strength isn't built in the easy moments. Strength is built in the moments you want to escape. Strength is built in the moments that stretch you, test you, and force you to rise. Principle: discomfort is not your enemy. Discomfort is your gym. Most people misunderstand discomfort. They think it means danger. But discomfort is simply the feeling of entering new territory. It's the sensation of stretching your limits. It's the friction between who you are and who you are becoming. Discomfort does not break you, it reveals you. It shows you what needs to be strengthened, refined, and rebuilt. Mentally strong people don't chase pain for the sake of suffering. They embrace discomfort because they know it is the most reliable path to growth. They understand that discomfort is information. It tells you where your power is lacking. It tells you where your fear lives. It tells you what you've been unwilling to face. Imagine two versions of yourself. In the first version, you avoid discomfort. You stay safe. You stay predictable. You stay inside familiar boundaries, never testing your limits. Life becomes easier on the surface, but heavier underneath. You wake up each day feeling trapped inside the same patterns. Now, imagine the second version of yourself. You face discomfort. You say the hard thing. You try the thing that scares you. You do the challenge that intimidates you. You push through the moment your mind wants to quit. Life becomes harder on the surface, but lighter underneath, because every challenge strengthens your identity instead of weakening it. Discomfort is the doorway to the person you want to be, but you have to walk through it intentionally. To build discomfort tolerance, you must first change the way you interpret struggle. Your body tightens, your mind resists. But what if that tension isn't danger? What if it's a signal that you're in the exact place you're supposed to be? What if discomfort is just the voice of growth whispering, "This is the moment that will change you"? Your relationship with discomfort decides your future. Start with small challenges. Wake up earlier than you want to. Say no to something draining. Make that difficult phone call. Take a cold shower. Start the task you've been avoiding. Each of these moments trains your nervous system to stay steady in discomfort instead of running from it. The goal is not to conquer everything at once. The goal is to build a habit of leaning in instead of backing out. Every time you face discomfort, you cast a vote for the stronger version of yourself. Every time you avoid it, you cast a vote for the weaker version. Your brain pays attention to every vote. Now picture a moment from your recent life, the moment you knew you should have pushed but didn't. Maybe you avoided taking action because it felt uncertain, risky, or embarrassing. Maybe you backed out because discomfort made you feel exposed. That moment didn't break you, but it taught your brain that retreat is acceptable. Today, we reverse that pattern. Begin with what is uncomfortable but safe. When you lean into discomfort with awareness, not panic, you build a new identity, an identity that can handle pressure without collapsing. This is how athletes, leaders, and mentally strong people are built, not from talent, not from motivation, but from the repeated decision to stay present inside uncomfortable moments instead of escaping them. Discomfort is the resistance that builds your psychological muscle. Think of weightlifting. If the weight is too light, nothing changes. If the weight is challenging, your muscles grow. Your mind is no different. You grow by lifting what feels heavy. Now ask yourself honestly, what is my mind avoiding right now? What discomfort am I refusing to step into? What could my life look like if I stopped running from the hard things? These questions are not meant to shame you. They're meant to awaken you, because you already know the truth. The life you want requires a stronger version of you. And that stronger version is waiting on the other side of something uncomfortable. You don't build confidence by feeling ready. You build confidence by doing what you're not ready for and realizing you can survive it. You don't build inner power by avoiding fear. You build inner power by walking into fear with your eyes open. You don't build resilience by staying comfortable. You build resilience by stretching what you believe you're capable of. Every uncomfortable moment is a training session for your mind. Discomfort is the classroom where you learn self-control. Discomfort is the furnace where weak habits burn away. Discomfort is the mirror that shows you your true strength. And it's time to stop running from the very thing designed to grow you. Ask yourself right now, what have I been avoiding because it feels uncomfortable? And what if the only way forward is through it? Because the people who rise highest are never the people who avoided discomfort. They are the ones who embraced it, worked with it, trained in it, and walked out stronger, calmer, and more capable than they were before. Discomfort won't break you. Avoiding it will. Lean in. This is where you become powerful. Chapter 4. Speak and act with integrity. If your words are stronger than your actions, your mind will never trust you. And if your mind doesn't trust you, your confidence can't grow. Most people never realize how deeply their life is shaped by the small promises they break to themselves. Every time you say you'll do something and you don't, your brain records it. Every time you commit to a standard and abandon it, your identity takes the hit. Most people think these are harmless moments. Tiny slips, small exceptions, little excuses. But your mind doesn't see them as small. It reads them as evidence that you can't rely on yourself. It's a painful truth, but it's one you must face if you want to become mentally strong. Your self-respect is built or broken by your consistency. This is why you've had days where you felt capable, powerful, aligned, and other days where you felt weak, scattered, or frustrated with yourself. It wasn't about motivation, talent, or willpower. It was about integrity. When your actions match your words, your mind becomes calm. When they don't, your mind becomes chaotic. Integrity is the foundation of mental strength. Without it, everything else collapses. Think of a moment when you told yourself you would change something, wake up earlier, stop procrastinating, stop overthinking, start training, stop repeating a toxic habit. You felt inspired for a day or two, but eventually the feeling faded. When you didn't follow through, you didn't just lose a habit. You lost trust, and the mind cannot operate powerfully without trust. Principle: say what you mean, do what you say. This isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. When your words and actions are aligned, your mind becomes a fortress. When they are misaligned, your mind becomes unstable. Integrity is not a moral concept, it's a psychological one. Your identity is shaped by what you repeatedly do, not what you intend to do. You can talk about discipline all day, but your mind only believes what it sees. It only respects patterns, not promises. It only trusts consistency, not excitement. Imagine two voices inside you. The first voice makes promises, big goals, big declarations, big statements about the person you want to be. The second voice waits quietly to see if you'll actually follow through. If the first voice speaks louder than the second, you live with inconsistency and self-doubt. If the second voice leads, you live with strength and clarity. Integrity begins when the second voice becomes the one you listen to. Now picture a life where every time you made a commitment to wake up earlier, to improve your health, to become more focused, to stop reacting emotionally, you actually followed through. Picture the mindset you'd build. Picture the confidence you'd carry. Picture the calm that would come from knowing you can rely on yourself, no matter the circumstance. That kind of confidence does not come from hype. It comes from alignment. Most people underestimate how powerful small alignments are. Showing up to a workout when you don't feel like it. Finishing the task you avoided. Keeping your word even when it's inconvenient. Saying no when you know something is wrong for you. Being honest about your intentions instead of performing for approval. Each of these moments rewires your identity. They create a mental pattern. I can trust myself. I follow through. I don't break my own standards. A person who trusts themselves is unstoppable. A person who doubts themselves collapses the moment pressure hits. Confidence comes from the promises you keep, not the ones you make. Let's make this real. Start by speaking honestly. Say less, but mean everything you say. Stop promising people things out of guilt. Stop saying yes out of fear. Stop giving your word lightly. The moment your words become fewer and stronger, your identity becomes clearer. You no longer speak to impress, you speak to lead yourself, then act with precision. If you commit to something, follow through. Even if it's small, even if no one will notice, even if it's inconvenient, especially if it's inconvenient. That's where mental strength takes root. The moments that feel like no one cares are the moments that shape who you become. Your identity is built in private long before it shows in public. And integrity is built in the decisions no one sees. Next, hold yourself to your own standards, not the world's. It's easy to keep promises when you're being watched. It's easy to perform when you want approval. It's easy to act disciplined when others expect it. But mental strength begins where external expectations end. You don't act right. You're right. You don't try to be consistent. You become the kind of person who doesn't break consistency. Integrity is the discipline of aligning your private life with your public values. Now ask yourself honestly, how many promises have you made to yourself that you quietly walked away from? How many times did you say, "I'll start tomorrow," and didn't? How many times did you act smaller than you are because it was easier than being honest? You're not weak for slipping. You're human. But you do need to confront the cost of those slips. Every broken promise chips away at your strength. Every act of avoidance chips away at your identity. Every misalignment chips away at your self-respect. But the moment you realign, everything changes. Identity is built fast once honesty returns. Momentum rebuilds quickly when your actions match your words. Confidence returns the moment you keep one promise you would have broken in the past. Start small. Choose one commitment, one standard, one action you will not break under any circumstance. Do it today. Do it tomorrow. Do it when it's inconvenient. Do it when you're tired. Do it when your old habits try to pull you back. And pay attention to what happens to your mind. Your posture changes, your decisions sharpen, your emotions stabilize, your anxiety decreases, your self-respect increases. You begin to feel like a person who follows through. You begin to act like a person who follows through. You become the kind of person who cannot be shaken because your trust in yourself is unbreakable. Ask yourself now, what promise do I need to keep to rebuild trust with myself? And what would my life look like if I kept every promise from this moment forward? Because the truth is simple. People respect you for your achievements, but you respect yourself for your integrity. Integrity builds identity. Identity builds mental strength, and mental strength builds the life you want.
Chapter 5. Finish what you start. Starting is easy. Finishing is rare. And the gap between those two is where most people lose the life they want. Think about how many things you've started with excitement. A new habit, a new project, a new goal, a new plan to change your life, and then let fade the moment the feeling disappeared. You didn't quit because you were incapable. You quit because your mind wasn't trained to finish. Starting comes from emotion. Finishing comes from identity. And without that identity, you end up living in cycles. Bursts of motivation followed by long periods of inconsistency. Inconsistency destroys confidence faster than failure ever will. It hurts because you know it's true. You know the disappointment of looking at something unfinished and thinking, "I should have completed that." You know the frustration of repeating the same cycle over and over again. Excitement, effort, discomfort, avoidance. And you know the sinking feeling of realizing that you've started more things than you've completed, and that this pattern has silently shaped your self-image. Your mind is always watching you. It learns from everything you do. When you finish what you start, your mind learns strength. When you abandon what you start, your mind learns doubt. Principle. Finishing is not a skill. Finishing is a standard. Mentally strong people don't rely on motivation to finish. They rely on identity. They see finishing as non-negotiable, a reflection of who they are, not how they feel. They understand that anyone can start when the energy is high, but only the disciplined finish when the excitement dies.
Motivation is the spark. Discipline is the engine. Identity is the driver. Without the driver, the engine dies. And that is why finishing matters so deeply. It rewires your brain to believe that you are the kind of person who follows through even when it's boring, uncomfortable, or inconvenient. That belief changes everything. Picture two versions of yourself. The first starts things constantly. New routines, new ambitions, new promises to yourself, but finishes almost none of them. That version of you feels the weight of unfinished things like a quiet pressure, a disappointment that lingers beneath the surface. It's not failure that hurts. It's the repetition of the same unfinished story. Now picture the second version, the one who finishes, the one who completes the workout even when tired, the one who wraps up the project instead of leaving it half done, the one who keeps a commitment long after the excitement evaporates. That version of you feels different, calmer, more grounded, more powerful. Because finishing creates internal certainty. I do what I say I'll do. And that certainty is what makes you mentally strong. You don't become powerful by starting more things. You become powerful by finishing one thing. Now let's talk about what finishing actually looks like in real life. The first shift is emotional. You must detach finishing from how you feel. Most people quit because the emotional high ends. They confuse fading excitement with a lack of capability. But mentally strong people understand that the emotional drop is part of the process. They don't react to it. They expect it. When excitement fades, discipline must rise. This is where you train your mind, not in the beginning, but in the moments where your old habits whisper, "Let's skip today." Those moments are not obstacles. Those moments are the training ground. Next comes simplification. Most people start too big. They overcommit. They create plans so grand that no human could follow them sustainably. When the pressure hits, they collapse. They think they failed. But in reality, the plan failed them. Mentally strong people simplify. They choose one target and strip it down to the smallest possible consistent action. Finishing begins with something you can repeat, not something you can impress people with. Then comes momentum. One completed action leads to another. Finishing is addictive. Your mind responds positively to closure. Every time you finish something, dopamine reinforces the behavior. It becomes easier, then natural, then automatic. Before you know it, finishing becomes your identity. But let's be honest, there are deeper reasons you've stopped finishing things. Fear of not being good enough. Fear of disappointing yourself again. Fear of being seen trying and failing. Fear that the completed version of your work will be judged. These fears don't mean you're weak. They mean you're human. But you cannot let them run your life. Here's the truth. People don't fail because they're incapable. People fail because they stop. The moment you stop, the moment you pause long enough to question yourself, the moment you step back from discomfort, that's when goals die. Finishing requires emotional endurance, the ability to feel discomfort and keep moving anyway. So here's the shift. You don't need to feel ready to finish. You don't need to feel confident to finish. You don't need to feel motivated to finish. You just need to feel responsible. You need to decide, this is who I am now. I finish things. And once that identity sets in, everything changes. Now ask yourself honestly, what unfinished tasks are draining your mental energy right now? What goals did you start with excitement but abandon out of fear or overwhelm? What version of you would emerge if you simply went back, one by one, and finished them? Your breakthrough isn't in starting something new. Your breakthrough is in completing what's already in front of you. Start with one thing, one unfinished commitment, one project, one habit, one promise you walked away from. Return to it. Finish it. Close that loop. Your mind will feel that shift immediately. It will give you the confidence to finish the next thing, and the next one, and the next one, until finishing becomes part of your identity. This is how you rebuild trust with yourself. This is how you build unstoppable momentum. This is how you become mentally strong. Now answer this question with courage. What will I finish? Starting today. Because the moment you choose that one thing, your transformation begins. Anyone can start. But you? you're going to finish. Chapter 6. Reset fast after failure. It's not failure that destroys people. It's how long they stay stuck after it happens. You've failed before. You've stumbled. You've had days that broke your momentum, broke your motivation, or broke your confidence. And the hardest part was never the failure itself. It was the way it lingered. The guilt, the overthinking, the shame, the frustration, the feeling of I should be better than this. Most people stay in that emotional quicksand far longer than necessary, and that's the real damage. Failure doesn't stop your life. Staying in failure does. We don't talk about this enough. The fastest way to lose your strength is to attach your identity to your mistakes. When you fail and stay down, your mind interprets it as proof that you're not capable. But mentally strong people see failure differently. They see it as information, a signal, a moment to adjust, not a reason to collapse. Principle: reset fast, rise faster. Resetting fast is not denial, it's discipline. It's refusing to let a temporary setback create a permanent story about yourself. It's understanding that the strength of your mind isn't measured by how perfectly you perform, but by how quickly you recover. Think back to a time when you messed up something important. Maybe you broke a habit you were working hard to build. Maybe you snapped at someone you care about. Maybe you missed a deadline, skipped a workout, avoided a challenge, or fell back into an old pattern you promised yourself you'd outgrow. What hurt you wasn't the mistake. It was that you stayed emotionally stuck in it. You replayed it. You judged yourself. You carried it into the next day, and the next, and the next. You didn't just fail, you lost access to your strongest self. But here's the truth. A single failure only lasts a moment. Your reaction extends it into your life. Imagine dropping your phone. You wouldn't sit on the floor for 3 days because it slipped. You'd pick it up, check the damage, and move forward. Yet people treat their failures like emotional disasters rather than simple human moments. You don't need a perfect life. You need a recovery mindset. Picture a rubber band. The more flexible it is, the farther it can stretch without breaking. Your mind works the same way. The more flexible you become, the faster you can reset after setbacks, the less anything can break you. Resetting fast requires one key shift: separating your identity from your actions. You are not your slip-up. You're not your mistake. You are not the moment you lost control. You are the way you respond afterward. Now let's make this real. The first step to resetting fast is awareness. You must catch yourself in the moment of emotional collapse. When you hear that voice saying, "See, you'll never change," or "This is who you really are," you have to interrupt it. That voice is lying. That voice is an old identity fighting for survival. Mentally strong people disrupt that voice immediately. They refuse to let one failure define the rest of their choices. Next comes acceptance. Not exaggeration, not self-punishment, just acceptance. I messed up. Now what? Those 4 words are the gateway to strength. They remove drama. They remove shame. They leave only responsibility, and responsibility is empowering. Then comes the reset itself. A reset is a deliberate act. One breath, one grounding thought, one clear next step. You breathe to calm your nervous system. You think to regain perspective. You act to rebuild momentum. Momentum matters more than perfection. Most people wait until they feel good again to continue. But mentally strong people take action, even when they don't feel recovered yet. Action creates recovery. Movement creates clarity. Small steps rebuild identity faster than waiting for confidence to magically return. The fastest way to escape a failure is to move. Picture a boxer knocked down in the ring. They don't stay on the ground replaying what went wrong. They get up, hold their stance, reset their breath, and re-engage. Their reset is physical, emotional, and mental. That's why they're fighters, and you are in that same ring every day. The next part of resetting is extraction. What did the failure teach you? What pattern did it reveal? What weakness did it expose? Your failures aren't proof that you're broken. They're mirrors that show you where your next level of strength must be built. When you look at them with honesty instead of shame, you transform them into tools. You become someone who uses setbacks as fuel instead of evidence. This is how mentally strong people think. They don't ask, "Why did this happen to me?" They ask, What is this trying to teach me? Through this lens, every failure becomes productive. Every setback becomes preparation. Every slip becomes information. You stop being afraid of failure because you understand that it cannot weaken you if you keep learning and resetting. Your power is not in avoiding failure. Your power is in responding to it. Now let's talk about the stories you tell yourself. After failure, most people build a negative narrative. I always do this. I can never stay consistent. This is who I am. Those stories are lies. They're reflections of emotional pain, not identity. If you want to reset fast, you must rewrite the story immediately after the failure. Something simple, something true, something stabilizing. Try this. This was one moment, not my identity. I can reset right now. I know how to come back stronger. These statements anchor you in your power rather than your pain. Then comes the final step. Recommitment. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. The longer you wait to recommit, the heavier the failure becomes. Mentally strong people close the gap between the setback and the return. They don't let guilt build momentum. They don't let shame grow roots. They re-enter the path immediately. Reset fast. Rise faster. Now ask yourself, what failure have you been carrying longer than necessary? What moment of weakness are you still judging yourself for? What setback stole more time from you than the mistake itself? You deserve to let that moment go. You deserve to reset. You deserve to rise again. Because in the end, your strength is not measured by how perfectly you avoid falling, but by how quickly you get back up when you do. Failure is temporary. Your comeback is permanent. Reset fast and rise. Chapter 7. Stay calm under pressure. Pressure doesn't break you. Your reaction to pressure does. Some people collapse under pressure, while others rise through it. Not because one group is stronger, but because one group learned how to stay calm long enough to think clearly. Pressure is not the enemy. Panic is. And panic is simply the mind losing control of itself in the moments it needs control the most. A calm mind is a powerful mind. You already know what pressure feels like. The tightening in your chest, the racing thoughts, the urge to react fast, to fix something, defend yourself, escape, or fight back. Pressure creates urgency, and urgency makes people impulsive. In those moments, most people stop thinking and start reacting. They speak too quickly. They over-explain. They make decisions from fear instead of strategy. And afterward, they regret the choices they made in panic. Panic is the tax you pay for not mastering your mind. It's not your fault you learned to panic. It's how you've been conditioned. Your nervous system has been trained to interpret discomfort as danger. Your emotions have been trained to take the wheel when stress rises, and your mind has grown used to treating pressure like an emergency instead of an opportunity. But mentally, strong people behave differently under pressure. They don't speed up. They slow down. They don't react. They observe. They don't let adrenaline decide for them. They let clarity lead. This calmness isn't a personality trait. It's a trained response. Principle. Calm is not weakness. Calm is control. A calm mind is not passive. It's not soft. It's not detached from reality. A calm mind is strategic. A calm mind sees the situation without distortion. A calm mind distinguishes real threats from imagined ones. A calm mind can choose the most effective action instead of the fastest reaction. Imagine standing in a storm. The wind is loud. The world is shaking. Everything feels unstable. But inside that storm is a single quiet center, a still point where everything is clear. Staying calm under pressure is stepping into that center. Now imagine a different picture. You're in a room filled with smoke. If you move too fast, you'll inhale the panic. If you stay still, the smoke settles and reveals what's actually happening. Pressure is that room. Calmness is the stillness that lets you see through the smoke. Most people react to the smoke. Mentally strong people wait for clarity. So how do you build calm under pressure? You train for it. A calm mind requires habits, not hope. It requires repeated exposure to moments of discomfort where you practice holding yourself steady. It requires rewiring your nervous system so that tension doesn't automatically turn into fear. Start with your breath. Your breath is the remote control for your nervous system. When pressure rises, your breathing tightens first. That tightness fuels panic. Slow the breath, and the mind slows with it. This is not spiritual. This is biological. A long inhale and an even longer exhale communicate safety to the body. When the body feels safe, the mind can think. Your breath is your anchor when everything feels unstable. Next, create internal space. You need a pause, a moment between stimulus and response. It can be half a second. It can be one full breath. That pause is where emotional control lives. That pause is the difference between reacting and responding. That pause is where strength begins. Then observe without judgment. Pressure makes people assume the worst instantly. I'm failing. I'm losing. I'm messing this up. These thoughts intensify panic. But if you observe what's happening without attaching a story to it, the pressure becomes manageable. You let reality speak before your emotions interpret it. Calm people aren't fearless. They're less reactive to their fears. Now think about your own life. Think about the last time pressure hit you. Maybe in a conversation, at work, in a relationship, during a challenge, or in a moment where something important was on the line. What made that moment heavy wasn't the pressure itself. It was the meaning your mind attached to it. You feared judgment. You feared embarrassment. You feared losing control. You feared not being enough. That fear activated panic. That panic took over your decision-making. And that decision-making created outcomes that made things worse. But imagine if you had stayed calm in that same moment. Imagine if your breathing stayed slow. Imagine if your thoughts stayed clear. Imagine if you held yourself steady instead of spiraling. The entire outcome would have changed. And deep down, you know it. This is why staying calm under pressure matters so much. It protects your intelligence. It preserves your clarity. It keeps your emotions from leading your life. And most importantly, it builds self-trust. A person who stays calm under pressure becomes someone they can rely on, someone they can count on in any situation, someone who remains stable even when everything around them is unstable. You cannot become mentally strong if pressure breaks you every time. So here's the practice. Whenever tension rises, pause. Whenever you feel the impulse to react, pause. Whenever you feel your chest tighten, pause. Whenever your mind starts spiraling, pause. That pause will save you. That pause will shape you. That pause will elevate you. In that pause, breathe. In that breath, regain control. In that control, choose your next move. In that choice, build your identity. Pressure is not a test of power. Pressure is a test of presence. Now ask yourself, where does pressure show up in my life? Which situations make me lose my calm? What emotions take over when I'm under stress? And how different would my life look if I stayed calm through those same moments? Be honest with yourself. Your calmness is not just for you. It affects every decision you make, every relationship you're in, every opportunity you get, every challenge you face. When you become calm, you become clear. When you become clear, you become powerful. Calm is your competitive advantage. Because while everyone else panics, you stay steady. While everyone else reacts, you respond. While everyone else collapses, you rise. You don't need a life without pressure. You need a mind trained to stay calm within it. Stay calm, stay aware, stay in control. That is how you become unshakable. Chapter 8. Replace bad habits with strong standards. You cannot create a strong mind while living with weak habits, and you cannot rise to your potential while holding on to the behaviors that keep you small. People think their bad habits are just things they do. They're not. Your habits are instructions you give your mind every single day. Every time you repeat a habit, good or bad, you reinforce an identity. You teach your brain, this is who I am. That's why breaking bad habits feels impossible. You're not fighting the habit. You're fighting the identity that habit created. Bad habits are not the problem. The identity attached to them is. You already know what your damaging habits are. The scrolling, the procrastination, the emotional eating, the numbing, the avoidance, the late nights, the self-sabotage disguised as comfort. And you know the truth. These habits don't make you feel good. They make you feel familiar. They keep you locked in cycles that feel safe even when they're destroying your strength. Comfort-based habits make your life easier now and harder later. Discipline-based habits make your life harder now and stronger later. This is the trade-off that defines mental strength. Most people fail at changing habits because they try to feel motivated. Motivation is unstable. Habits aren't driven by emotion. They're driven by identity. You don't quit a bad habit by hating it. You quit it by outgrowing it. Principle. Habits don't disappear. They get replaced. Your brain is wired for patterns. It hates empty space. If you remove a habit and don't replace it with something stronger, your mind will go searching for the old behavior. That's why quitting is not enough. You must replace the old habit with a standard. A standard is a rule for your life, a line you don't cross, a level of behavior you refuse to drop below, a commitment you uphold even when no one is watching. Standards create identity. Identity creates behavior. Behavior creates your life. Picture this. Imagine a person trying to stop procrastinating. They force themselves to start tasks earlier. Maybe they do it once or twice, but soon they slide back into the same pattern because they didn't replace the procrastination with a standard like, I do difficult things first. Without that standard, the brain defaults to comfort. With that standard, the brain has a new rule to follow. Now imagine someone trying to stop late-night snacking. They remove the snacks but keep the same pattern. Boredom, stress, emotional craving. The moment the discomfort hits, they return to old habits. But if they replace the habit with, when I feel the urge, I drink water or take a walk, suddenly the mind has a new pathway. You don't break cycles with punishment. You break cycles with structure. The real reason bad habits are hard to change is because they provide relief. Relief from stress, relief from boredom, relief from loneliness, relief from pressure, relief from facing the truth. But relief is not the same as growth. Relief is temporary. Relief is deceptive. Relief is addictive. The more you chase relief, the weaker you become. The more you chase standards, the stronger you become. You must understand something critical. Your habits aren't just actions. Your habits are instructions for your future. Every time you repeat a strong habit, reading, training, waking early, focusing deeply, you're building the person you want to become. Every time you repeat a weak habit, you're reinforcing the person you're trying to leave behind. Your habits are building your identity whether you want them to or not. So let's make this real. The first step in replacing bad habits is awareness. You must know the trigger, the moment your mind shifts into autopilot. Maybe it's stress at work. Maybe it's loneliness at night. Maybe it's boredom. Maybe it's the fear of starting something difficult. Every bad habit has a trigger. Once you identify it, you can intercept it. Next, decide your replacement habit, not 10 replacement habits. One strong behavior that serves as your new default. Your mind doesn't need complexity. It needs clarity. If your bad habit is scrolling for hours, replace with a 10-minute walk. Late night overeating, replace with a glass of water. Journaling, avoidance, replace with a 5-minute action toward the task. Negative self-talk, replace with one grounding sentence like, I lead my mind. Waking up late, replace with feet on the floor within 10 seconds. Small replacements beat large expectations. Then implement the 3-second rule. When the urge for the old habit kicks in, you have 3 seconds to choose the new one. 1, 2, 3. Move. The faster you move, the weaker the old pattern becomes. Action breaks habits. Hesitation reinforces them. Now think deeply. Which habits have been slowly weakening you over the years? Which behaviors feel comfortable but leave you feeling disappointed afterward? Which patterns have cost you progress, energy, and confidence? You already know the answers. These habits have been stealing things from you: your time, your clarity, your discipline, your potential, your identity. And you know what hurts the most? Not the habit itself, but the person you become because of it. When you replace weak habits with strong standards, everything changes. Your discipline stabilizes, your confidence rises, your self-respect grows, your decisions become cleaner, your life becomes lighter. Replacing habits is not just about removing something. It's about becoming someone. Someone who doesn't escape discomfort. Someone who doesn't numb their mind. Someone who doesn't shrink under pressure. Someone who doesn't tolerate their own excuses. Someone who is mentally strong. Now ask yourself, what is one habit I've outgrown? What standard will replace it? What will my life look like once this shift becomes automatic? Be brutally honest. Be courageous. Be intentional. Your habits are shaping your future. Your standards are shaping your identity. Your decisions today are shaping the person you will meet tomorrow. Replace what weakens you. Repeat what strengthens you. And rise into the version of yourself you were meant to become. Strong standards. Strong mind. Strong life. Chapter 9. Win in private. The strongest version of you is built in the moments no one sees, because private discipline creates public confidence. So many people want to change their lives, but they only work hard when someone is watching. They perform when they feel motivated. They stay consistent when it's convenient. They push themselves when there's validation, praise, approval, or an audience. But the moment the world stops looking, their effort disappears, and they don't realize that this inconsistency is exactly what keeps them weak. Your real life is not the life people see. Your real life is the life you live when no one is looking. You've felt the difference yourself. You know the version of you that shows up when you want to impress someone. You know the version of you that shows up when you want approval, but you also know the version that comes out when it's just you. No pressure, no eyes, no expectations. That version decides your future, whether you like it or not. Private behavior builds public identity. People get confused about confidence. They think confidence comes from compliments or achievements or success. But real confidence comes from knowing you do the right thing when no one is there to reward you. Real confidence comes from living in alignment when there is zero external pressure to do so. Real confidence comes from being loyal to your standards, not your feelings. Principle. What you practice in private becomes who you are in public. Think back to any moment where you doubted yourself. That doubt didn't come from lack of ability. It came from lack of proof. Your mind didn't have evidence that you were someone who keeps their word in the dark. And without that private evidence, you collapse under public pressure. Now imagine being the opposite. Imagine being the kind of person who practices discipline in silence, who trains when no one knows, who keeps promises no one hears, who works on their craft without bragging, who maintains high standards without applause. Imagine the confidence you would carry if you lived that way. Not the loud, performative confidence people fake. The quiet, grounded, unshakable kind. The kind that builds legacies instead of impressions. Private discipline is the most honest mirror you will ever look into. Now visualize two versions of yourself. One does the bare minimum when alone, saves effort for when others will notice, and lives in cycles of inconsistency. That version struggles with motivation, never feels fully confident, and constantly questions whether they measure up. The other version, the private winner, puts in the work even when it's inconvenient. That version trains through boredom, grows through solitude, and strengthens the mind through consistency. That version doesn't need to impress others because they know exactly who they are. Public confidence comes from private truth. Let's make this practical. Winning in private begins with honesty. Are you the same person when no one is watching? Do you hold yourself to the same standard? Do you follow through when motivation dies? Do you choose discipline when you're tired, bored, or emotionally drained? These questions are uncomfortable because they expose your real identity, but that's the point. Growth requires honesty. Strength requires awareness. The next step is to build silent routines, habits you practice without announcing them. These routines are your secret training ground. They're quiet, but they're powerful. They create the foundation the world eventually sees. Wake up early, not to brag, but to build discipline. Train your mind, not to impress, but to strengthen. Work on your craft, not for recognition, but for mastery. Reflect on your flaws, not to punish yourself, but to grow. Keep your promises, not for applause, but for alignment. Private discipline strengthens your inner anchor. Even when the world shakes, your identity stays stable. One of the biggest traps people fall into is seeking validation instead of transformation. They want their effort to be seen because they want their worth confirmed. But the moment your effort depends on visibility, you lose control of your strength. You become fragile. You require external approval to take internal action. To win in private, you must remove the audience. Let your growth be unseen. Let your improvement be silent. Let your strength be built in the shadows. Because the person who grows in silence becomes unstoppable in the light. Picture an athlete training alone in a dark gym. No cameras, no fans, no lights, just effort, just repetition, just discipline. That is the moment that builds champions. Not the stage, not the applause, not the spotlight. Success is earned in the dark long before it is celebrated in the light. Now picture someone who only works hard when the spotlight is on. Their growth becomes inconsistent, fragile, and shallow. They rise quickly and fall quickly because nothing inside them was built to last. Longevity comes from private strength. Now ask yourself, what is one area of your life where you perform publicly but slack privately? Where do you rely on motivation instead of standards? Where are you pretending instead of practicing? Where are you hoping no one sees the truth? Be brutally honest. This is where transformation begins. Winning in private also means reducing your need for recognition. Recognition feels good, but it is addictive. The more you rely on it, the weaker your internal foundation becomes. When your effort is for you, not for approval, you gain power no one can take away. The quietest work builds the loudest results. And here's the final shift. Discipline in private removes pressure in public. When you've done the work behind the scenes, you don't fear the spotlight. You don't stress about performance. You don't worry about judgment. You walk with certainty because you already know you're prepared. You can fake public confidence, but you cannot fake private work. Private discipline creates an internal record, a quiet library of proof that you are capable, committed, and consistent. When that internal library grows, so does your mental strength. Now ask yourself again, what is the work you need to do in silence? What standard must you keep even when no one is checking? What routine must become sacred, even when your feelings resist it? Because here is the truth. Anyone can perform when the world is watching. Anyone can pretend to be disciplined. Anyone can look strong online. But only a few are strong in the dark. Those few rise higher than everyone else. Not by trying to impress others, but by impressing themselves. Win in private, and the world will feel your strength without you ever having to announce it. Chapter 10. Repeat the fundamentals. Daily. Most people don't fail because the journey is too hard. They fail because they get bored with the fundamentals. Everyone loves the idea of transformation. Everyone wants the breakthrough, the momentum, the new life. But when the excitement fades and the routine becomes repetitive, they break their consistency. Not because they lack potential, but because they misunderstand mastery. Mastery is not built on intensity. Mastery is built on repetition. The fundamentals are not glamorous. They are not dramatic. They don't give you instant gratification. They don't make you feel like a hero. But they create the structure that keeps your mind strong when everything else collapses. You want a mentally strong life. You want emotional stability. You want confidence so deep it can't be shaken. It all starts with the fundamentals repeated daily, not occasionally. The boring things are the things that build you. People underestimate how powerful small, repeated behaviors can be. They expect big changes from big efforts, but real transformation is always the result of small efforts done consistently. One good day doesn't change your life. One intense workout doesn't change your body. One moment of clarity doesn't change your mindset. What changes your life is who you become through repetition. Principle. Consistency beats intensity every time. But consistency requires humility. It requires discipline. It requires the willingness to return to the simple practices even when your mind wants something new, exciting, or easier. This is where most people fail. They chase novelty and abandon mastery. They want progress without repetition. They want strength without routine. But mentally strong people understand something powerful. Fundamentals make you unbreakable. Think of any elite performer, athletes, artists, leaders, creators, thinkers. What separates them isn't talent. It's devotion to the basics long after others have gotten bored. They repeat the same drills, the same exercises, the same mental routines, the same habits, until those fundamentals become part of their identity. Now picture two versions of yourself. In the first version, you chase motivation. You perform well when inspired, but the moment the spark fades, you lose your rhythm. You stop, you restart, you stop again. You live in cycles of inconsistent effort and inconsistent identity. In the second version, you build your life around the fundamentals. You don't wait for motivation. You don't depend on emotion. You move every day, small steps, repeated actions, quiet effort. You show up even when you don't feel like it. You follow your standards even when they feel boring. This version of you becomes unstoppable. Because repetition creates identity. Identity creates behavior. Behavior creates your entire future. Now let's talk about what the fundamentals actually are. The fundamentals are simple. Waking up with intention, protecting your focus, doing hard things first, finishing what you start, training your mind, caring for your body, being honest with yourself, keeping your promises, protecting your energy, showing up consistently. None of these require perfection. All of them require commitment. Small daily actions create massive long-term strength. The problem is that your mind craves novelty. It wants excitement. It wants change. It wants stimulation. And when the fundamentals feel repetitive, your mind tries to convince you to skip them just for today. But each skipped day rewrites your identity. Skipped once becomes skipped twice. Skipped twice becomes a pattern. Patterns become identity. Identity becomes fate. This is why repetition is not just about habit. It's about self-respect. Every time you repeat a fundamental, you reinforce the belief. I'm someone who shows up. I'm someone who doesn't break. I'm someone who finishes. I'm someone who stays aligned. This internal belief is what people call mental strength. Mental strength is not something you feel. It's something you build, brick by brick, day by day. Picture a stone cutter hitting a rock with a hammer. Nothing happens on the first hit, or the second, or the 10th, or the 100th. But on the 1000th hit, the rock splits open, not because of that one strike, but because of every strike before it. Your fundamentals are those strikes. Now think about your life. Think about all the times you started strong and faded. Think about the goals you abandoned when the routine became boring. Think about the habits you stopped because they weren't exciting anymore. You didn't fail because you weren't capable. You failed because you misunderstood the process. The process requires repetition long after your feelings disappear. So how do you build consistency in the fundamentals? Start small. Start simple. Start with what you can repeat daily, not what you can do intensely for 1 week. 1 page of reading, 10 push-ups, 5 minutes of breathing, a clean workspace, 1 finished task, 1 disciplined decision, 1 act of self-respect. These are not small actions. These are identity builders. When you do them every day, your mind begins to believe you are someone who follows through. That belief creates a mental foundation stronger than any emotion or motivation could ever give you. Then you stack the fundamentals, layer by layer, behavior by behavior, identity by identity. Soon the fundamentals no longer feel like effort. They feel like who you are. Now ask yourself, which fundamentals have I abandoned? Which fundamentals changed my life when I practiced them? Which ones do I need to return to right now? And most importantly, am I willing to repeat them even when they feel boring? Because boredom is not the enemy. Inconsistency is. The fundamentals don't fail. People fail to stay with them, but not you. Not anymore. Not after everything you've learned. not after building the discipline, identity, and mental strength that led you here. Your future will not be defined by one big moment. It will be defined by thousands of small repetitions. Repeat the fundamentals. Repeat your standards. Repeat your strength. Mastery is monotony. Repetition is power. Consistency is freedom. And the fundamentals, done daily, will build the unbreakable version of you. Becoming mentally strong was never about becoming perfect. It was about becoming intentional. And intentionality is the greatest power you will ever carry. You've walked through 10 chapters of mental training, 10 pieces of inner work that most people never give themselves the chance to explore. Not because they can't, but because they choose comfort over growth. But you didn't choose comfort. You chose clarity. You chose structure. You chose discipline. And that alone separates you from the life you used to tolerate. Everything you learned here was designed for one purpose: to help you master your mind so your mind no longer masters you. If you look back at the journey, you'll notice something powerful. It wasn't about changing the world around you. It was about changing the way you respond to it. It wasn't about chasing motivation. It was about building identity. Not the loud, fragile identity shaped by emotion, but the steady, unshakable identity shaped by repetition. Mental strength is the result of choosing your standards over your feelings. You learned how to win your morning, the first battle of your day. You learned how to protect your focus, the doorway to your potential. You learned how to tolerate discomfort, the price of every meaningful transformation. You learned how to align your words with your actions, building an identity solid enough to trust. You learned the power of finishing instead of leaving your life scattered with abandoned beginnings. You learned how to reset fast after failure, refusing to let one moment define the entire direction of your life. You learned how to stay calm under pressure, becoming the steady one in a world that panics easily. You learned how to replace weak habits with strong standards. And finally, you learned how to win in private, because the world only sees the results of the work you do in the dark. Every chapter has built upon the one before it. Every lesson has layered into your identity. Every decision from this point forward will reflect the strength you've been developing. But here's the truth most people never hear. Your transformation does not begin when this audiobook starts. Your transformation begins when this audiobook ends. Knowing the path is not enough. Walking the path is what changes everything. Knowledge without repetition fades. Repetition without identity feels forced. But identity created through discipline becomes permanent. So ask yourself honestly, who are you becoming? Not who you pretend to be online. Not who you are when you're motivated. Not who you are on your best days. Who are you when life gets loud? Who are you when pressure hits? Who are you when no one sees your effort? Because that identity is the one writing your future every single day. Look at the person you were before you began this journey. Now look at the person who is here, listening, reflecting, aware, and awake. You're not the same. Maybe the world can't see it yet, but your mind can, your body can, your spirit can. Something inside you has shifted, and you can feel it. You've built discipline, you've built clarity, you've built resilience, and most importantly, you've built self-respect. Self-respect is the birthplace of every strong decision. Now comes the part that only the strong can do, turning knowledge into identity, turning identity into action, turning action into consistency, turning consistency into transformation. Most people stop when the audiobook ends. They go back to old habits, old patterns, old distractions, old versions of themselves. They treat growth like a moment instead of a lifestyle. But you are not most people. You've proven that by making it here. You've proven you're willing to do the inner work. You've proven that you're ready to lead your mind instead of letting the world lead it for you. So take a breath. Slow down. Feel the power of where you are, right now, in this exact moment. And understand something deeply. You don't rise by accident. You rise by practice. You don't become mentally strong once. You become mentally strong daily. The fundamentals, the discipline, the morning structure, the focus, the calmness, the standards, they are not temporary. They are your new baseline. They are the foundation you return to no matter what life throws at you. And when life tests you, and it will, you will not collapse into the old version of yourself. You will rise into the new one, the stronger one, the clearer one, the one you built with intention and effort. Your future is not waiting for you. It is being created by you, right now. So carry these principles with you. Carry these standards with you. Carry this strength with you. And remember, no, you don't need the world to believe in you. You need you to believe in you, because once your mind becomes unshakable, your life becomes unstoppable. This is your new beginning. Live it with strength. Live it with clarity. Live it with purpose.